The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
That's right. It is time for UFC Best Bets, and we are in Las Vegas, but we are not at the Apex or T-Mobile this week. We are at the theater at the Virgin Hotels in lovely Las Vegas. It used to be the Joint at the Hard Rock. Now it is the theater at Virgin Hotels. So a little bit of rebranding, but we've been in this building before. The UFC has been in this building before, and it is a big one this weekend. Petr Yan taking on Merab Dvalishvili. All kinds of things to talk about, storylines, different circumstances going into this fight. I really like this main event, especially from a gambling perspective, and we got the man to talk about it, Ian Parker, who had himself a good weekend in Las Vegas last weekend. If you were on our YouTube channel, you saw us recapping UFC 285, but we're going to recap it again because it was such a good night. Ian Parker, take it away. Tell us about UFC 285, what you did there.
Yeah, we needed the big night, and the big night we had. Let's start off the GOAT himself, Jon Jones. He made it look easy, and a lot of people did not like us taking that. They were going with Cyril Gane. We stuck to our guns. He got the submission. Round one, Grasso, Shevchenko, over 2.5. Gamrot, Turner, we talked about this in our breakdown, Brett. Turner's defense off his back, very solid. The chain wrestling of Gamrot to avoid the strike at Turner. That was an easy over 1.5. Bo Nickel by sub, I mean, we're never going to get that line again, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Even at minus 150, easy as cake. Now, Brunson Duplessis, that one really made us sweat, but we got there. And last but not least, Marquez Barrial. Now, I want to talk about one thing, Brett, the parlay. I don't want to make an excuse here. You know, never thought that Valentina Shevchenko would be the one to drop it, but this is a perfect example of when you and I do this show, we discuss about strategy, about making money, being profitable in situations. With the parlay, we always talk about hedging, and this was the perfect opportunity. Again, not an excuse for the loss, but if you did 1 unit on the parlay and 1 unit on Grasso straight money line, you made money no matter what you did. I hope you guys pay attention to the show because that education, that helps.
Yep. We're always preaching that, and of course follow Ian on Twitter because he's giving out more advice as the night plays out. And that Bo Nickel line, yeah. Sometimes when you see a line that looks too good to be true, you wonder to yourself, you know, something's got to be fishy here. But that one, I mean, sometimes you got to jump on those lines that seem too good to be true because that one did seem too good to be true, and it ended up, I mean, no sweat whatsoever. That thing was done and dusted very quickly. Okay, so before we get to UFC Fight Night this weekend, we do want to say that as good of a night as we had at UFC 285, look at the night that this man had. He turned $1. A 6-leg parlay winner, he turned $1 into $400,000. I mean, Ian, you're talking about hedging. You can't even hedge that. I mean, you get down to the very last one, Jon Jones by submission. What are you going to hedge? $200,000 on Cyril Gane? This was an absolute wild parlay. And look at that one. The first leg was the closest one that came to not coming true because Dracus Duplessis finished that fight with 1 second left in the round when his corner threw in the towel to get that method of victory. So, wow. Congratulations to this man or woman for hitting a 6-leg parlay winner, $1 into $400,000. Man, what a night for that bettor. But we have business to tend to. Let's get to UFC Fight Night. It is Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. And this one is so interesting to me, man, because you know, you have this circumstance of Yan is coming off of technically 2 losses, but they were both split decision losses. You can see him there on the main card that starts on 6 Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPN+. Petr Yan taking on Merab Dvalishvili, and then you go down the rest of that main card. But Petr Yan coming in, he is coming off of split decision losses to Aljamain Sterling, to Sean O'Malley. I'm just going to go off and say it. I thought Petr Yan in the building when I was watching those fights won both of those fights. He certainly thinks he won both of those fights. So now he's coming into a 5-round fight against Merab Dvalishvili, who happens to be the teammate and close friend of Aljamain Sterling, the man who he has fought twice. And he's probably telling himself, like, man, I'm not going to leave this to the judges anymore. I've got to get a finish over Merab Dvalishvili. But Merab Dvalishvili doesn't get finished, man. I mean, this guy has a granite chin. He has great cardio, as we know. He's coming in, Yan, as a minus 250 favorite. What do you think of this line, and what do you think of the circumstances surrounding this fight? Because it's not just as simple as breaking down X's and O's. I think you have to look at the backstory going into this one.
Yeah, you did a great job teeing me up there and kind of starting it. Look, for Petr Yan, I think we have now seen where the weakness comes with him when it comes to a 5-round fight and a 3-round fight. And I think the weakness plays into Merab's strength. This is a guy who they called a machine. And I don't think there's a better nickname for anyone in the history of ever, because he just does not stop. And we talked about this off camera sometimes, that you don't have to be the most talented fighter, but when you can dictate a pace that's impossible to stop, the constant takedowns, the constant pressure. We saw it against Jose Aldo. It wasn't a fun fight for the fans, and it was 3 rounds. Petr Yan starts off very slow. Merab has one button, and that's fast, 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 and he doesn't stop. I think that this is a very interesting matchup. I'm actually surprised that Petr Yan, after 2 losses in a row, despite what we think, despite what we believe the scorecard should have been, it's still 2 L's. And Merab is just someone that has been a wild card in this division, okay? His striking is okay. He does have power in his hands, but it's not the most beautiful technique, if you want to call it that. He kind of sticks to the jab and the overhand right. The takedowns are coming, but you still can't stop him. And even when you stop him, I'm not worried about stopping the first one. How about the 6th, 7th, and 8th attempt on that first shot? And if you think he's going to slow down, he just doesn't. We saw him in Utah in high altitude. It didn't matter. Petr Yan is going to be the much better striker of the two. We know he's a sniper. We know he's got phenomenal boxing. He does have good takedown defense. But Brett, you said it yourself. We saw when Aljamain beat him. There is a blueprint. Take him down, and he can be held down. On top of that, we've seen him in 5-round fights, even against someone like Corey Sandhagen, where he always starts off slow. He likes to download the information. I think in a fight like this, if he drops round 1 just to process what's going on, I don't know if he's going to be able to catch up, because this will be the first time, in my opinion, that another fighter is just not going to slow down. You know what Merab is going to do. The question is, can Petr Yan stuff it every single time and land that monster shot? I don't know if he can.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then I want to talk to you about method of victory and also the over-under here. I mean, I got to believe, Petr Yan has a certain way of fighting, and I don't think that you can just necessarily just change that. It's worked for him. It's been successful for him. He knows what he's doing. He does start slow, but I got to believe that because of the way that the decisions have gone against him, and because of the way he might want to either make sure that he gets a decision here if it goes the full 5 rounds, or better yet, finish Merab Dvalishvili. Are we going to anticipate a little bit more of an aggressive Petr Yan, and what does that mean in terms of when you look at the methods and you look at the over/under?
You know what? Right away when I saw this fight, my first answer was this is going to decision. And that's because Merab is so hard to put away, and Petr Yan doesn't get finished either. For Petr Yan, he has to land early. He can't go behind on the scorecards, and Merab is not someone who looks for the finish. In this fight, this is the most important fight of his career to get to that title shot. And we know if Aljo wins his next fight, he'll probably leave the division, then Merab will try and fight for a title. We'll see how that goes. For me, I think the odds are just way too high in Merab's favor as an underdog. So I'm going to roll the dice here. Originally I was going to say decision, which I still think happens, but the line is, I think, over -200, and I don't want to do that. And for Petr Yan, if he's going to win, if you like Petr Yan, I wouldn't take a money line. It's either decision or finish for him. I know that's kind of like, one way or the other, but if it's a decision, in my opinion, it goes Merab's way. I think Merab is a high enough underdog here. It's worth taking a shot. I think the wrestling, the cardio, he is a very difficult person to stop. I'm going Merab.
I love that, man. I love that. You got this is about finding value. This is about finding opportunities to take underdogs, And so the degree of confidence, of course, is going to be a little less when you're talking about a guy who's +205 than a guy who's -200. So, but you identify these dogs and you take them when you see value on them. And I agree that the line dictates where the money goes. And I think, Merab Dvalishvili at +205, not a bad bet there in the main event. So let's move to the co-main event quickly. A heavyweight fight between the Alexanders. Alexander Volkov taking on Alexander Romanov. Sort of an interesting thing here because you look at their resumes. Volkov has been, the resume, just the numbers-wise, has been somewhat mediocre. He's 6-4 in his last 10, but he's been fighting much higher competition than Alexander Romanov, who's coming off of a decision loss to Marcin Tybura. Prior to that, he'd won 5 in a row, but he hadn't really been fighting the creme de la creme of this heavyweight division. So, step up in competition from Romanov, but he's got the nice sterling 16-1 record. What do we think of him in this co-main event, Ian?
You know what? That fight with Tybura, in my opinion, the scorecards, that was terrible. I don't know how he didn't get a 10-8 that first round. It should have been a draw at best. And we did see him gas out. However, he was at high altitude. I don't know why people are now all of a sudden giving this consensus that his cardio is not great. This is a heavyweight that tries to wrestle, tries to grapple, and this is the perfect matchup for him in that regard. Now, he's going to start off fast. That's what he does. He's going to come in there, jab, shoot him for a double leg, and probably get Volkov to the ground. And Volkov has taken a lot of damage over the years. All right, he's been, granted, he just finished Jair Rosenstrike. That was a really weird, kind of freakish knockout. The fights with Curtis Blades, the fights with, with just others where he's taken a lot of damage, the Derek Lewis fight, and you saw that he is able to be held down. I think Romanov can take him down. I think he's going to be physically stronger, the better athlete. Once he takes him down, I think Romanov is getting a little bit more mature. I would hope where he paces himself better, doesn't need to rush it. Volkov is just not an aggressive fighter in general. For me, this is Romanov's win here. I think this matchup is great for him because Volkov's not going to threaten the wrestling. So Romanov just has to really not turn this into a brawl, or make it a little bit sloppier against the cage. Don't guess out. I believe that King Kong gets the win here.
Yep, and this is one where the size of the cage might make a little bit of a difference in favor of your pick in Romanov because a smaller cage, it's going to be a little harder for Alexander Volkov to maintain that kickboxing distance that he likes to keep so much. All right, real quick, before we head through the rest of the prelims, we're going to talk about the Ryan Spann versus Nikita Krylov. We're not going to spend too much time on this one because we did break it down in depth, so you can go back and find that because it was supposed to be a main event just a couple weeks ago, but then it was canceled because of Nikita Krylov. So you picked Krylov, so I believe we're staying with that. But any pause, I guess, because of the health concern that the guy was pulled out of a fight just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know if it was food poisoning or the weight cut was too much for him, but he's had enough time to recover from that. And I made a comment that Krylov had a high fight IQ, and a lot of people were like, oh, but did you not see him jump into Paul Craig's guard? Yes, I did. That was one fight that doesn't define him and his career. However, I think the smaller cage may play a factor here as well. He's going to try and take away Spann's power, take him to the floor, or press against the cage. Spann may be the stronger fighter, have the knockout power. His cardio, though, is not fantastic. Krylov could take this fight into deep waters. I think that's how he gets it done. I still think Krylov wins this fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I would say go ahead and take a look at them and how they look on the scale because, like you say, 2 weeks, yeah, that's fine. That's enough time to get over an illness. But it is cutting weight. It's going through the process of cutting weight twice in a short amount of time, and some of these guys might get impacted by that a little bit more. So just take a look at them. If you like Krylov, make sure that you like what you see on the scale before you take that. And then that's it for the main card breakdown. Let's go to the rapid fire for the rest of your main card picks and then your prelim picks, Ian.
Yeah, we're going to go with Ricardo Ramos here. We're going to throw him probably in the parlay. Those odds are a little high. Lingo has been very tough. Ramos has more weapons to get the win. Sandor Magomedov versus Jonathan Martinez. That may be flying under the radar as fight of the night. Martinez has looked phenomenal. Magomedov had a comeback win with that guillotine. I just think that his grappling may be too much for Martinez. And last but not least, I'm going to go with Anton here. His opponent Vitor has won all his fights by knockout, I believe, or he's split. However, I've seen Anton fight better level competition. That's not a fight I would bet. However, I like the underdog in that play. All right, Carl Williams. We've seen this guy in multiple organizations. This fight is not going to be an exciting one. He's going to wrestle and probably wrestle his opponent to death and get the win. Look to him by decision. Over 2.5 for Assunção and Davy Grant. However, I am going to pick a side as the best bet, so stay tuned. We're going to go Dumas over Frem. Bautista inside the distance. It is still a crazy number, but tune in. I may have a special surprise to get better value on that fight. JJ Aldrich, another 3-1 favorite, rightfully so. Better striker, should be able to keep the feet, fight on the feet, and get it done there. Over 2.5, Victor Henry and Tony Gravely. I am also going to go Bruno Silva, and last but not least, as you can see, pick to be determined. There's no odds. Jared Gooden just announced as a replacement. But if there are no odds, I would go Carlton Harris. So now we talk about something with Batista. New segment here, Brett. A little surprise for you. Parker's prop. We've been throwing these in some best bets. However, there's one I'm really strong about. It's this prospect, Mario Batista. He has looked nothing short of phenomenal lately. His submission game has been fantastic. He's fighting Guido Canetti, who is going to be a brawler. I believe he's 40-plus years of age. He's been a crazy underdog in all of his fights. But this kid looks like the real deal, just like you saw in that last highlight. I think Batista is not going to mess around on the feet. Take the fight to the floor. Give me a round-wood submission as my prop for the Batista versus Canetti fight.
Yeah, I agree. Mario Batista is a talent to watch for. He's not getting as much attention as some of the other bigger names in that division, but he is a talent. And look at Ian, dude. Of course, right after a bettor turns $1 into $400,000, here Ian is given prop by the round props. Of course he's doing that. He saw that payout and he needed to get in on that action just a little bit.
Salty.
So
I'm salty.
I'm all for it, dude. I'm all for adding segments. I'm all for adding more action to that. Just beef up this show as much as possible with more and more action. So speaking of, let's get to the rest of the action on this Saturday card with Parker's parlay.
Yeah, this isn't going to turn a $1 into $400,000, but for me, I'm going a little conservative here. I'm going to go with Ramos, Nurmagomedov, Batista, and JJ Aldrich, plus 140 and change here. Again, I'm trying to get some sort of value out of just playing these favorites on the money line. Call it chalky, call it what you want, but if it cashes and wins, it does not matter. We're going to go for it there, and we also minimize our risk. So that's what we're going to do for the parlay this week.
Absolutely. Yep. 100 to win 149 is still a nice little payout, especially if we're confident about the outcome. Let's move on to the best bets, Ian.
So last week we did incredible. This week I'm hoping we can continue it. We're going to start off Bruno Silva. I hope that line does not get any higher. He's fighting Tyson Dam, who carries a ton of power. However, Silva's got good striking, major advantage on the ground. I'm still good with this line. I think he gets it done. Henry, Gravely. We've seen this Gravely fighter, he's inconsistent. And with Victor Henry against Hani Barcelos' decision, his last fight against Rafael Assunção, he just didn't fight. So my thought is here, Gravely's going to not want to stand, try to wrestle. Henry's going to defend takedowns. I think this fight goes all 3 rounds. Davy Grant, Assunção in the show, I did lean towards over 2.5. I still think that happens. However, I am extremely confident in Davy Grant. He's fought high-level competition. And outside of Assunção's last fight against Victor Henry, he had 3 losses in a row, 2 of them where he got knocked out. Grant is a very dangerous fighter. I'm going with King Kong and Romanov. I think the wrestling's going to be too dominant for Volkov. We've seen him get dominated there on the floor before. And I think Romanov is no joke. And especially if his cardio holds up, look for him in the future to be a problem not to mess with. Last but not least, I'm going with Merab as a best bet at plus 205. That cardio, that wrestling, that pressure, and the slow start of Petr Yan. We've seen what happens when you get on his back on the ground. He can't get up. There was nothing there, and even off his back, not a submission threat. Merab is extremely tough. That cardio pace, I don't know if anyone can really handle it unless they tag him. If anyone can, it's Yan, but at plus 205, I'm going with Merab to get the upset here.
I like it, man. I like stepping out on that limb and making Merab a best bet. If you feel real confident about it, you see the path to victory, let's go ahead and try to cash in on that value of plus 205. And speaking of value, let's talk about our long shot parlay of the weekend. Where are we going with that one?
I'm still really salty about that 400,000. This makes this look like a baby play. But look, Merab by decision at plus 330. Romanov by submission, plus 250. Ramos by KO, TKO, DQ at plus 300. Anton moneyline, minus 105. And Davy Grant by decision at plus 225. We got some good odds here. I tried to get up to that big number. I just couldn't do it. But Brett, do the honors, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's 400,000 to 1 is going to be a little bit hard to ever replicate, but that is still a pretty nice payout at $10. Cashing in at $3,800. That would be a nice little Saturday for us. And Saturday, remember, it's a little bit earlier than normal. It's a 6 p.m. Eastern start time, so make sure you're tuning in a little bit early from the Virgin Theater in Las Vegas. I'm looking forward to this main event, man. This is going to be a very exciting main event, and we got a best bet on it from Ian Parker. So thank you for watching the show. Thank you for watching UFC Best Bets. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we will see you right back here, man, every single week just about. We are talking about plays and looking to keep the momentum hot after a very successful UFC 285. Let's go.